Working from home permanently is to become a reality for employees of the social media giant Twitter. The company says its experience over the past few months shows remote working has been a success. And so Twitter is giving staff the option of staying home even after the pandemic ends, as long as their role enables them to do so. Well, Twitter is the first major tech company to allow workers to do this. Others like Facebook and Google have allowed most employees to work remotely until the end of the year. Now, the pandemic has forced unprecedented changes in work culture across the world. So for a closer look at what could be a new normal, let's check in with Peter Richardson from Counterpoint Research. Peter, thanks for joining me. So, quite a bold move for Twitter to allow employees to work from home forever. Do you think this is going to perhaps maybe entice other companies to follow suit as well?
Yeah, I think it probably will signal a bit of a change in the way that companies can work going forward. We've seen tech giants like Twitter, Facebook, and Google, asking their staff to work from home through this period. But Twitter's the first to come out and say that they can carry on doing that forever if the role satisfies certain criteria. On its earnings results yesterday, the telecom giant Vodafone also said that I think around 90% of its staff in Europe are working from home, and productivity has not been severely impacted, in some cases improved. So, I think the experience of this pandemic is probably accelerating trends that were already underway.
Yeah, so companies like Twitter and Facebook, well positioned, I suppose you could say, to allow people to work from home. They work in the tech space. They know the infrastructure that they need to have, that sort of thing. What are the challenges for the less tech-savvy workplaces that might also be thinking that this could be the way forward?
Yeah, I think there are challenges. Part of it is to do with the type of role that you have. A lot of the, tech roles might be in programming or, software design, something like that, which lend themselves to, quiet contemplative work, which can be done at home or remotely. For many other organizations, it's not quite so easy to do that. And, one of the things that we see, Counterpoint is, we're essentially a kind of a virtual organization. We work largely remotely around the world, but it does require a lot of coordination to make teams work. And particularly when you're trying to onboard new starters, that's very challenging. So the way in which companies will need to operate will have to change to make this work for all capable employees. Obviously, not everyone can work from home, but it's not straightforward. There's a lot of learning that has to be done to make it work. The things that concern me, perhaps for some of the smaller organizations, would be things like security risks. Obviously, if you're dialing in from a home situation over domestic broadband, that could create potential security risks and things like that.
All right, so saying that, so for employees, though, so what are the biggest challenges for them when they are working from home, on a long-term basis?
Yeah, I think, there's a lot of, social interaction that happens in the office, which is beneficial to the overall development of a culture of an organization. So if you are long-term away from that, it can impact your ability to be part of that sort of, the culture of an organization. So that can be, difficult. As I mentioned earlier, bringing in new employees is difficult if they are remote. Just getting them embedded into the ways of working and the culture of organization can be a challenge. So I think, the main ones are probably around social interaction. So if you are isolated, from your team, for an extended period, that can be a challenge for some.
Yeah, Peter, don't tell my colleagues this, but I perhaps do miss them a little bit. How else, though, do you foresee work life changing post-COVID-19?
Yeah, I think, as I said earlier, this pandemic is probably going to accelerate some of the changes that were happening in any case. There has been a trend toward, slightly different ways of working. Companies are identifying that, many of the desks typically in an office pre-COVID might have been empty anyway because people were traveling. So, did they need to have quite such large amounts of office space? Maybe not. So maybe this will be accelerated. The shifts away from offline retail, so physical stores, towards online, clearly as that's being accelerated, we're seeing that across multiple sectors. So there are going to be, very significant changes in the way that many different sectors of industry will be impacted by this. Some will rebound, or at least come, some way back to the way they were pre-COVID, but many will not. And, we will see this sort of general shift in the workplace. I mean, one of the things that does concern me, though, is young people coming out of, let's say, out of education or university, trying to get their first role. I think in that situation, it's very important that people are able to, work with others to learn on the job. So, if we have very different ways of working in the future, that might be a bit more challenging.
Right, indeed. Change being the one constant here and a new normal happening. Thank you so much, Peter, for speaking to us. Peter Richardson, the Research Director, Counterpoint Research.